You know what? I was sitting down looking at what I'd not covered on the channel, and it kind of dawned on me that I had looked at the first space simulation game and the first RTS game, but I never really sat down and looked at the first city builder game at all. Maybe I just got it confused with RPGs, or strategy RPGs rather, and that's kind of a slight to the game. I mean, we've all kind of tried these at one point or another, be it a rudimentary elements in something like ActRaiser, or something more akin to City Skylines or SimCity, but where did this come from? What did it look like? And how did we get those games? And were either one of them first? Well, if you're curious, and I imagine you are if you're here, sit back and hang out a while as we look at the earliest city builder games and how they progressed over time. Now, most games like this are focused around resource management, a lot like RTSs. Players will start out with a certain number of resources and have to use those to acquire more so they can add more items and structures, usually having to deal with the population's needs and the city's problems as they grow. So it should come as no surprise that one of the earliest ones I could find was known as the Samaran game. Now, this worked off the same principle. This game was actually text-based. Yeah, it was a text-based strategy game, and this game started out by a Board of Cooperative Educational Services of Westchester County, New York. Yeah, educators. They wanted to set up a series of discussions with teachers to discuss a way of using simulations in the classroom as a part of their criteria. In short, they wanted to use video games to teach kids. So it was that they began working on the Sumerian game to do just that. The game was based on the reigns of 3 successive rulers of the city of Langish in Samar around 3500 BC. Each segment of the game would ask players to allocate workers and grain over a series of rounds while accommodating the effects of those prior conditions. Look, you allocate food and manpower to various different projects you need your people to complete. There'd be random disasters that could cause your player issues and things of the like. Players could also make technological advances to make their life a little bit easier. So the basic principles are there, just not graphically. This was a first, but the game as we knew it would still evolve over time, with a game called Utopia. Now, we've talked about this game before and how close it was to the first strategy RPG, which is in and of itself related to, but not the same as city builder games. In Utopia, each player rules their island, or one player can verse a CPU opponent. Each player will then allocate their points into different buildings, be that hospitals, schools, houses, etc. They would need to plant crops and make fishing boats or PT boats to keep hostiles out. The other player could attack the opposing player's fishing boats to keep their score down with their PT boats. But the overall idea was to have the most profitable and efficient society by the end of the game. It would take another 7 years for another game to rival this type of game, with SimCity. Released in 1989, this was one of the most detailed city simulations to date. Graphically, it was just better in every way. It also had more buildings and stats to keep track of, like, working with other neighboring cities, maintaining prisons, and, monster attacks. I mean, you could call a kaiju attack a natural disaster. It counts. This would lead to a number of other SimCity games, and eventually the rise of City Skylines, each with similarities and their own differences in mechanics at the same time. In fact, the earliest one, the Samaran game, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a spiritual successor to the Civilization games, which were just as much city building and society simulator as they were about combat and strategy. However, what do you guys think of this one? Did you learn something from this one? How many of you played games like this, or do you avoid them altogether? What games do you think were influenced by this type of game? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, please leave this video a like. It really does help me out. And if you would, follow the channel. That helps me out a ton. For now though, thank you once again for spending part of your day with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until we meet again, happy gaming.